Blood pooled beneath Commander Lysandra Koval's fingertips as she dragged herself across the fractured deck of the ESS Intrepid. Emergency lights pulsed crimson through thick smoke. The ship, once humanity's pride in deep space exploration, now resembled a wounded animal, drifting helplessly at the edge of the Cygnus void. "Status report?" She rasped into her comm unit, receiving only static in return. 3 hours earlier, the Intrepid had been ambushed by a vessel that appeared from nowhere. No warp signature, no displacement wave. One moment empty space, the next, destruction. Their attackers moved with terrifying efficiency, disabling the Intrepid's weapon systems before the crew could even raise shields. Now, as Lysandra crawled toward the escape pod bay, a shadow fell across her path. She looked up to see a figure towering over her, at least 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales that shifted from midnight blue to purple under the emergency lights. The alien's 4 eyes tracked her movements with predatory intensity. "Captain Vexorith," a gravelly voice called from behind the looming figure. "We've secured the engine room." The being, Captain Vexorith, apparently didn't turn. "And the quantum drive?" "Intact. Exactly as our buyer requested." Vexorith made a clicking sound that might have been satisfaction. He, Lysandra assumed it was a he from the voice, leaned down, bringing 4 glowing eyes level with her face. His pupils were vertical slits, like a cat's, but more alien, more hungry. "This one's alive," he said, grabbing Lysandra's wrist and hauling her upright with impossible strength. Pain shot through her injured leg. "And wearing command insignia." "Leave her," the other alien said dismissively. "The atmospheric lock is failing in this section. We have 10 minutes at most." Vexorith studied Lysandra, his head tilting curiously. "She comes with us. Galactic intelligence will pay well for a human officer with knowledge of Earth's defense systems." "I know nothing about defense systems," Lysandra spat, blood trickling from her split lip. "I'm a xenobiologist." This wasn't entirely true. As commander of the science vessel, she had received basic military training and access to classified files. But the alien didn't need to know that. "Even better," Vexorith purred, his mandibles flexing in what might have been a smile. "The consortium has been searching for someone with your expertise." Before Lysandra could respond, the ship lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared as the gravity stabilizers failed. Vexorith scooped her up with ease, carrying her through the maze of corridors as though she weighed nothing. "Sir," the comma unit on Vexorith's wrist crackled. "Human reinforcements detected on approach. 3 warships." Vexorith cursed in an alien language. "Extraction, now." They raced through the dying ship, reaching a docking hatch where an alien craft was attached like a parasite to the Intrepid's hull. Lysandra caught glimpses of more aliens, all different from Vexorith, some with tentacles, others with exoskeletons, loading, crates of stolen equipment. A motley crew of space pirates, she thought bitterly. As Vexorith carried her aboard their vessel, Lysandra noticed something strange, a symbol on his neck glowing with faint blue light that seemed to pulse in time, with her own heartbeat. The alien froze momentarily, his 4 eyes widening as he looked at her with newfound intensity. "Impossible," he whispered. The pirate ship detached from the Intrepid with a violent shudder, and as they accelerated away, Lysandra caught a final glimpse of her dying vessel through a viewport. A tear slid down her cheek, for her ship, for her crew, for the mission that had ended in catastrophe. Little did she know that being taken hostage by this alien pirate would unravel secrets about herself, about humanity's place in the galaxy, and about an ancient connection between species that would shake the foundations of everything she believed. The alien vessel hummed with unfamiliar energy as it tore through space, leaving the wreckage of the Intrepid far behind. Lysandra sat in a containment cell, her wounds hastily treated with some kind of blue gel that tingled and numbed the pain. She examined her surroundings. The cell was clearly designed for various species with adjustable restraints and atmosphere controls. Captain Vexorith hadn't spoken a word since bringing her aboard, but she caught him watching her through the translucent barrier several times. his four eyes blinking in that unsettling asynchronous pattern. The door hissed open, and a small reptilian alien with crimson scales entered. "I am Thrax's ship's medic," it announced in surprisingly fluent English. "Captain orders full examination of human female." "I have a name," Lysandra said coldly. "Commander Lysandra Koval of Earth Science Vessel Intrepid." Thraxis blinked rapidly. "Name irrelevant, need tissue sample." Before she could protest, Thraxis pressed a device against her arm. It stung briefly as it extracted blood. "Why am I here?" Lysandra demanded. "If it's ransom, Earth doesn't negotiate with pirates." Thraxis ignored her, scanning the blood sample with another device that projected holographic data in an alien script. Suddenly, the medic froze, scales bristling as it stared at the results. "Impossible," Thraxis whispered, the exact word Vexorith had used earlier. The door slid open again and Vexorith entered, his massive frame seeming to fill the small medical bay. "Leave us," he commanded, and Thraxis scurried out. Vexorith approached Lysandra slowly, as if she were a volatile explosive. "Your genetic sequence," he began, his deep voice unusually hesitant. "It contains markers that should not exist in your species." "What are you talking about?" Lysandra asked. "The resonance," he replied, touching the glowing symbol on his neck. "Among my people, the Krivax, this birthmark appears on those carrying the ancient bloodline. When two fated mates encounter one another, the resonance activates." He gestured to her collarbone. "Look." Lysandra glanced down and gasped. A faint blue symbol had appeared on her skin, identical to his, pulsing with the same rhythm. "This is ridiculous," she said, rubbing at the mark. "Some kind of allergic reaction to your medical treatment." "It is the resonance," Vexorith insisted, "but it should be impossible between different species unless—" He trailed off, studying her with renewed intensity. "Unless what?" Lysandra demanded. "Unless your ancestors were not entirely human." The statement hung in the air between them, absurd yet somehow ominous. "That's insane," Lysandra finally said. "Humans evolved on Earth, we have fossil records, DNA evidence." "Your science is primitive," Vexorith interrupted. "There are secrets about humanity's origins that your people have yet to discover." A loud bang shook the ship, cutting off their conversation. Red alert lights flashed and an announcement in an alien language blared over the comm system. "We're being pursued," Vexorith explained, moving toward the door. "Earth vessels are more persistent than I anticipated." "They'll catch you," Lysandra said with grim satisfaction. "And when they do—" "They won't," Vexorith interrupted. "But our current predicament forces my hand." He hesitated, then added, "The resonance between us changes everything. By the ancient laws of my people, you are now under my protection." "I don't need protection from a pirate," she spat. "I am not merely a pirate," he replied enigmatically. "And you are far more valuable than you realize, not as a hostage, but as the key to solving a mystery thousands of years in the making." Another explosion rocked the ship. This time, Lysandra was thrown forward, crashing into Vexorith's solid chest, his arms instinctively wrapped around her, and at the contact, the marks on both their bodies flared brilliantly blue. Images flooded Lysandra's mind, alien landscapes, ancient civilizations, star maps, and inexplicably, what appeared to be Earth from space but with different continents, as if from millions of years in the past. When the vision cleared, she found herself staring up at Vexorith in shock. From his expression, he had shared the experience. "Now do you understand?" he asked softly. "Our meeting was not chance. The fate of both our species depends on what we discover together." Before she could respond, the ship's engines roared to life, and they plunged into what Lysandra recognized as a wormhole jump, escaping her would-be rescuers and carrying her deeper into the unknown. The ship emerged from the wormhole with a violent shudder that sent Lysandra stumbling across the medical bay. Vexorith steadied her with one muscular arm, the contact sending another jolt of energy between their resonance marks. "Where are we?" she demanded, pulling away despite the strange magnetic attraction she felt toward him. The Cassiopean Drift, Vexorith replied, moving to a viewport. A region controlled by neither the Galactic Consortium nor Earth's alliance. Outside, space itself seemed different, swirling with purple and teal nebulous gases, punctuated by the glittering lights of unfamiliar stars. A massive space station loomed ahead, constructed of what appeared to be living metal that pulsed and shifted like a breathing organism. "What is that?" Lysandra whispered, momentarily forgetting her captivity in the face of such an incredible sight. "Nexus Point," Vexorith explained. "A neutral trading hub and information market. We'll be safe here while I arrange passage to my homeworld." The door slid open, and a hulking insectoid creature entered, chittering urgently to Vexorith in an untranslatable language. "Impossible," Vexorith hissed. That word again. "How did they track us through a blind jump?" The insectoid projected a holographic image showing 3 sleek black ships approaching the station. Ships unlike any Earth vessel Lysandra had ever seen. "Those aren't human rescuers," she stated, knowing immediately that these unknown craft represented something more dangerous. "No," Vexorith agreed grimly. "They're harvesters, genetic hunters employed by the consortium. Someone has placed a bounty on resonance pairs." "Genetic hunters? Resonance pairs?" Lysandra's scientific curiosity momentarily overcame her anger. "I need answers, Vexorith. Real ones, not more cryptic alien mysticism." The pirate captain regarded her for a long moment before nodding. "You deserve to know what you're involved in." He turned to the insectoid. "Krisk, prepare emergency departure protocols. I'll join you shortly." After Krisk left, Vexorith activated a console projecting a 3-dimensional star map. 5,000 years ago, an advanced race called the Precursors seeded genetic material across multiple worlds, creating several sentient species including the Crevax. "And humans?" Lysandra finished, the implication clear. "Yes. The resonance mark appears in bloodlines carrying the purest precursor DNA. It's extraordinarily rare and valuable, as the genetic code contains information lost to time." "Information about what?" "Technology beyond anything currently existing. Biological advancements and coordinates." He pointed to a section of the map. "To the precursor homeworld, believed to contain their repository of knowledge." Lysandra processed this information with growing disbelief. "And you think I'm part of this experiment?" "I know you are." Vexorith's voice softened. "The resonance never lies. When 2 compatible carriers meet, their genetic memory activates, gradually unlocking sequences hidden within their DNA. That's why you took me from the Intrepid," Lysandra realized. "You recognized what I was." "I felt the resonance activate the moment I saw you," he admitted, "though I didn't know it was possible with a human. That's why you're so valuable. You're evidence that humans and Crevax share more precursor DNA than anyone suspected." The ship's alert system blared again. Vexorith cursed and moved toward the door. "The harvesters have deployed boarding craft. We need to move." "Wait," Lysandra called. "Why are these harvesters hunting resonance pairs?" "Because together we can access the complete genetic memory. The consortium wants that knowledge exclusively. They'll dissect us both to extract it." His 4 eyes fixed on her with surprising intensity. "I may be a pirate, Lysandra Koval, but I won't let that happen to you." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. Before she could respond, the ship rocked violently as something impacted the hull. "They're here," Vexorith growled, drawing a weapon that hummed with energy. He hesitated, then handed Lysandra a smaller version. "Can you fight?" She checked the weapon. Unfamiliar technology, but intuitive enough. "I'm a scientist, but Earth officers receive combat training." Another explosion shook the vessel. "Emergency." Bulkheads began sealing as breach alarms wailed throughout the ship. "Stay close to me," Vexorith ordered as they moved into the corridor. "If we're separated, make for docking bay 3. My crew knows to protect you with their lives." "Why would they die for me?" Lysandra asked, following him through the chaos of the damaged ship. Vexorith's mandibles clicked in what she was beginning to recognize as a smile. Because you're my fated mate. And among the Krivax, that makes you royalty. Before Lysandra could process this new revelation, shadowy figures emerged through the smoke ahead, humanoid in shape, but with blank, featureless faces and bodies that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Harvesters, Vexorith snarled, raising his weapon. Remember, Lysandra, they want us alive, but damaged is acceptable to them. As the first attackers lunged forward, Lysandra and Vexorith stood back to back, their resonance marks pulsing in perfect synchronization, preparing to fight their way to freedom. The harvesters moved with unnatural speed, their featureless faces revealing nothing of their intentions as they closed in. Lysandra fired her weapon, surprised at how naturally it came to her. The energy pulse struck the nearest attacker, causing its form to ripple and distort before reforming. Aim for the central mass, Vexorith called, demonstrating with a precision shot that caused one harvester to collapse into a puddle of writhing darkness. Lysandra adjusted her aim and fired again. This time, her target dissolved similarly. Fighting alongside Vexorith felt strangely familiar, as though they had battled together countless times before. They moved in perfect coordination, covering each other's blind spots without verbal communication. The docking bay is just ahead, Vexorith said, as they dispatched the last of the immediate threats. My personal shuttle can outrun their vessels. They raced through the burning ship, passing the bodies of crew members who hadn't survived the harvester's assault. Lysandra felt a pang of guilt. These deaths were connected to her presence, to whatever genetic secret she unwittingly carried. As they reached the docking bay, a massive explosion tore through the hull behind them. The decompression wave sent them flying forward. Vexorith grabbed Lysandra, shielding her with his body as they tumbled through the air, crashing hard against a cargo container. Are you injured? He asked, his normally intimidating features now etched with concern. I'm fine, she replied, surprised by his protective instinct and her own lack of fear toward him. But we need to move. They reached a sleek vessel unlike the others, clearly designed for speed rather than cargo capacity. As they boarded, Vexorith activated the controls with practiced efficiency. What about your crew? Lysandra asked, looking back at the damaged pirate ship. Those who survive will rendezvous at our sanctuary moon, he replied, though she detected pain in his voice. It's not the first time we've been scattered. The shuttle detached and accelerated away from the larger vessel, just as more harvester ships arrived. Through the viewport, Lysandra watched in horror as the pirate ship exploded in a spectacular burst of energy. They self-destructed to prevent capture, Vexorith explained grimly. Krisk would have initiated the protocol once the ship was compromised. As they sped away, outrunning their pursuers with the shuttle's superior engines, Lysandra found herself studying Vexorith's profile. Despite his alien features, she could read his expressions now. The grief for his lost crew, the determination to continue their mission. I'm sorry about your ship, she said softly. Vexorith turned to her, surprise evident in his 4 eyes. You sympathize with a pirate who kidnapped you? I sympathize with anyone who loses people they care about, she replied, even if they're alien criminals. A sound emerged from Vexorith that took Lysandra a moment to recognize as laughter. You are remarkable, Lysandra Koval. Most humans would still be plotting their escape or revenge. Oh, I haven't ruled those out, she said with unexpected humor. But first I want answers. If what you've told me is true, if humans and Krivax share an origin, that rewrites everything we know about evolution, about our place in the universe. Vexorith's expression grew serious. There is a way to access more of the genetic memory directly, but it requires trust. He hesitated. And physical contact between resonance pairs. Lysandra raised an eyebrow. What kind of physical contact? Not what you're implying, he replied, mandibles clicking in what she now recognized as embarrassment. Simply prolonged contact while in a meditative state. The shuttle's autopilot can handle our journey while we attempt it. After a moment's consideration, Lysandra nodded. Set the course. Once the shuttle was safely on its way to whatever sanctuary Vexarith had programmed, he led her to a small meditation chamber. They sat facing each other, knees almost touching. Place your hands on mine, he instructed, extending his scaled hands, each with 6 long fingers. Hesitantly, Lysandra complied. The moment their hands touched, the resonance marks flared brilliantly, and the world around them dissolved. They found themselves standing on a planet with 2 suns, surrounded by structures of impossible architecture. Figures moved around them, neither human nor crevax, but something in between, with iridescent skin and eyes that held ancient wisdom. The precursors, Vexarith whispered beside her, now appearing in this vision as both himself and something more. A precursor approached them, studying them with eyes that seemed to see through time itself. When it spoke, Lysandra understood despite the alien language. The convergence approaches. The separated bloodlines must reunite before the scourge returns. Images flashed around them. Planets dying, civilizations falling, a darkness spreading between stars. Then a magnificent city built within a mountain on a blue-green planet. Earth, Lysandra gasped, recognizing her homeworld despite the unfamiliar continent configuration. Not only Earth, Vexarith replied. The vision shows Earth as it was when the precursors first arrived, before they established their primary outpost there and began their experiments. The vision shifted again, showing human and Kryvax DNA strands intertwining, revealing hidden sequences that, when combined, formed a complete pattern, a key of some kind. As suddenly as it began, the vision faded, and they found themselves back in the shuttle, hands still clasped together. Now do you understand? Vexarith asked softly. Together we carry the key to the precursor legacy, and possibly the salvation of multiple civilizations from whatever this scourge may be. Lysandra withdrew her hands slowly, mind reeling from the implications. I understand why the consortium wants us, but I'm not convinced that you want this knowledge for altruistic reasons either, Captain Pirate. Vexarith's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. My people have long awaited the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy, that one day the separated bloodlines would reunite and lead us back to our Creator's wisdom. Yes, I began as a pirate, but my true mission has always been to search for resonance carriers. Before Lysandra could respond, the shuttle's alert system activated. A holographic display showed 5 harvester vessels converging on their position from different directions. Impossible, Vexarith hissed. They couldn't have predicted our course unless what? Lysandra demanded. Unless they have their own resonance pair, he replied grimly. One who can sense our connection. As the reality of their situation sank in, Lysandra realized that her fate was now inextricably linked with that of the alien pirate, her supposed genetic counterpart from across the stars. Can we outrun them? Lysandra asked, watching the harvester ships closing in on their position from all directions. Vexarith's hands flew over the shuttle's controls, not conventionally, but there's another option. He activated a hidden panel, revealing an unusual navigation system unlike anything Lysandra had seen. Organic-looking crystalline structures embedded in the console. Precursor technology, she breathed, immediately recognizing it from their shared vision. Salvaged from an ancient outpost, Vexarith confirmed. Most of it is inert, but the navigational core still functions, if provided with the correct activation sequence. He looked at her meaningfully. A sequence contained within our combined genetic memory. Understanding dawned on Lysandra. You want me to help you activate it. It requires both bloodlines, he explained. Place your hand here beside mine. Hesitantly, she complied, laying her palm on the crystalline interface next to his 6-fingered hand. Their resonance marks flared immediately, and the crystals began to glow with the same pulsing blue light. Now focus, Vexarith instructed, not on escaping the harvesters but on the coordinates we saw in our shared vision. Lysandra closed her eyes, recalling the star patterns from their vision. Unexpectedly, knowledge flooded her consciousness, Mathematical formulas, spatial coordinates, quantum equations she somehow understood despite their complexity. She felt Vexorith's mind alongside hers, their thoughts intertwining as they jointly processed this ancient knowledge. The shuttle shuddered as the crystalline drive activated. Space outside the viewport seemed to fold inward, stars stretching into streaks of light before being replaced by a swirling tunnel of blue-white energy. Slipstream transit, Vexorith explained as they removed their hands from the console. We've entered a dimensional corridor the harvesters cannot follow. Lysandra stared at her palm, where intricate patterns now glowed beneath her skin. Temporary neural pathways formed by interfacing with the precursor technology. That was... She struggled to find words. Incredible. I understood things no human scientist has ever conceived. The genetic memory contains more than just coordinates, Vexorith said, studying her with newfound respect. It holds scientific knowledge beyond current galactic understanding. Where are we going? She asked, suddenly realizing she had helped plot their course without knowing their destination. To the only place we might find allies, my homeworld, Krivaxa. My people have protected resonance carriers for generations. Lysandra felt conflicting emotions, scientific fascination warring with concern for her situation. And after Krivaxa, what happens to me? Vexorith's expression softened. That is your choice. The resonance creates a connection, but it does not dictate your path. His words surprised her. I thought you said we were fated mates. In my culture, the resonance indicates compatibility and shared purpose, he explained. What grows from that foundation is determined by the individuals. After a pause, he added, I would never force a bond upon you, Lysandra Koval. Something in his tone, vulnerability beneath the warrior's exterior, touched her unexpectedly. Before she could respond, an alert sounded from the navigation system. We're approaching Krivaxa, Vexorith announced, moving to the controls. The slipstream tunnel dissipated, revealing a breathtaking sight, a ringed planet of deep purple, oceans and emerald continents, orbited by 3 moons of varying sizes. It's beautiful, Lysandra whispered. As they descended toward the planet's surface, Lysandra noticed something unusual. Massive energy shields surrounding major population centers, and orbital defense platforms positioned strategically around the planet. Your world is heavily fortified, she observed. The Krivax have been at war with the consortium for generations, Vexorith explained grimly. They covet our precursor heritage, and now they will want you even more once they discover a human carries compatible genetic markers. The shuttle approached a mountainous region where a magnificent city was built into the natural rock formations, structures of crystal and living metal, reminiscent of the precursor architecture from their vision. The Royal Enclave, Vexorith said, his voice tinged with what sounded like apprehension. My home. Royal, Lysandra repeated, recalling his earlier comment about her being royalty by association. Vexorith, what aren't you telling me? Before he could answer, their shuttle was surrounded by elegant escort vessels that guided them to a landing platform extending from the mountainside. I promise you will have answers soon, he said as they touched down. But first we must face the Council of Elders, including my mother, High Sovereign Nixalori of the Krivax. Lysandra stared at him in shock. You're not just a pirate captain. You're a prince? I am the Sovereign's offspring, yes, he admitted, mandibles clicking uncomfortably. I left Krivaxa years ago to search for resonance carriers among the stars while avoiding consortium detection. The pirate identity provided perfect cover. You've been lying to me from the start, Lysandra accused, anger flaring. Not lying, revealing truth in measures you could accept, Vexorith countered. Would you have believed me if I had introduced myself as Prince Vexorith of the Krivax, seeking his prophesied genetic counterpart? Before she could argue further, the shuttle's door opened, revealing an honor guard of Krivax warriors waiting to escort them. Their armor bore the same symbolic marking that glowed on Vexorith's neck, and now on Lysandra's collarbone. As they disembarked, Lysandra felt countless alien eyes upon her. The the first human to walk on Krivak's soil. Despite her anger at Vexorith's deception, she straightened her posture and walked with dignity. Whatever awaited her in this alien royal court, she would face it with the composure befitting an Earth commander, and apparently, the genetic inheritor of an ancient cosmic legacy. The resonance mark pulsed on her skin as if in encouragement, and beside her, Vexorith's did the same. Two fragments of a cosmic puzzle finally brought together across the vast expanse of stars. Theo. Royal Enclave's interior took Lysandra's breath away. Vast chambers carved from living crystal that seemed to amplify and reflect light in impossible ways. Bioluminescent plants provided natural illumination, casting multicolored patterns across polished stone floors. As they proceeded deeper into the complex, Krivak citizens stopped to stare at the unprecedented sight, their prince returning, with a human bearing the sacred resonance mark. Some bowed respectfully, others maintained a cautious distance. "They fear me," Lysandra observed quietly. "They fear what your existence means," Vexorith corrected. "For generations our scholars taught that the resonance could only manifest between Krivaks. Your presence challenges everything my people believe about their unique connection to the precursors." They arrived at massive doors inlaid with precious metals and crystalline structures that resembled star charts. The guards announced their arrival and the doors swung open silently despite their enormous size. Within sat the Council of Elders, 7 ancient Krivaks, whose scales had faded to pale blue with age. At their center, upon an elevated crystal throne, sat High Sovereign Nyxalori, immediately recognizable as Vexorith's mother from her striking violet eyes and regal bearing. "My son returns from his self-imposed exile," Nyxalori's voice resonated throughout the chamber. "And brings with him—" She paused, her 4 eyes widening as she noticed the glowing mark on Lysandra's collarbone. "Impossible." "The impossible stands before you, mother," Vexorith replied, inclining his head respectfully. "Commander Lysandra Koval of Earth carries the resonance mark, compatible with my own." Murmurs erupted among the council members. Nyxalori rose from her throne, descending gracefully to approach Lysandra. Despite being female, she towered over the human woman, her presence commanding absolute attention. "May I?" the sovereign asked, gesturing to Lysandra's mark. Lysandra nodded, allowing the alien queen to examine the glowing symbol. "Authentic," Nyxalori confirmed, her voice betraying rare emotion. "The prophecy speaks truth. The separated bloodlines converge." She turned to the council. "Prepare the ancestral chamber immediately." "Mother," Vexorith interjected, "Lysandra has not agreed to participate in the communion ritual. She deserves full disclosure before—" "The harvesters tracked us through Slipstream," Lysandra interrupted, addressing the sovereign directly. "They have their own resonance pair. Time is not our ally." Nyxalori's eyes narrowed appreciatively. "You speak with wisdom, human. The communion ritual will allow you to access the complete genetic memory you share with my son, knowledge that may save both our worlds from what comes." "And what exactly is coming?" Lysandra challenged. An elder counselor stepped forward. "The Scourge, an ancient enemy that drove the precursors to extinction. Our incomplete records suggest they return cyclically to harvest advanced civilizations. The last cycle ended with the precursors' fall." "And the next cycle?" Lysandra asked, though she suspected the answer. "Has already begun," Nyxalori confirmed grimly. "The consortium's aggression is merely a symptom. Their leaders are already compromised, controlled by Scourge infiltrators. What they seek is not merely power, but the extinction of all precursor-descended life." The severity of the situation hit Lysandra like a physical blow. This was no longer about her captivity or even the scientific implications of shared genetic heritage. Entire civilizations hung in the balance. "Take me to this ancestral chamber," she said resolutely. The chamber lay deep beneath the mountain, a perfect dome of crystal embedded with technology so advanced it resembled magic. At the center stood 2 crystalline platforms, similar to the navigation interface on Vexorith's shuttle, but far more elaborate. The communion will forge a permanent neural link between your minds, explained an elder priestess as she prepared the chamber. You will retain your individuality, but the genetic memory will be fully accessible to both of you. Forever. Permanent? Lysandra questioned, looking at Vexorith. I should have explained earlier, he admitted. The connection we've experienced is only a fraction of the resonance's true potential. Full communion cannot be undone. Lysandra felt momentary panic at the prospect of being permanently linked to the alien prince. Yet something deeper than rational thought pulled her forward, perhaps the very genetic programming they sought to activate. Will it hurt? She asked pragmatically. The priestess made a clicking sound of amusement. Quite the opposite. The communion is said to be profoundly pleasant. Before Lysandra could question this cryptic statement, alarms blared throughout the complex. A guard burst into the chamber. Sovereign. Harvester vessels have breached our outer defenses. Somehow they followed the prince's shuttle through slipstream. Nyxalori turned to Lysandra and Vexorith. We must complete the communion now. The knowledge you unlock may be our only hope.